Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, say, Monday, April 14th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a bit about my co-host. Do you know what, folks? Today is World Quantum Day. This is where we celebrate quantum computing. Why do we celebrate it? Why does my guest celebrate it, as do I? Well, because quantum computing plus AI plus robotics means we are getting closer and closer to Tweaky becoming a reality. Check it out.
Booty, booty. Something from the bar, sir?
Hold the phone.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Booty, booty.
Booty,
Booty, booty, booty. Booty, booty, booty.
Tweaky, where are you going?
Don't ask.
She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. Sheila, ever since I was in high school and I first started watching that horrible series, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, this clip of 500 years in the future has always perplexed me, which is to say this: they have developed a robot that is intelligent, that can do things with his hands, that is capable of mobility. Why does he have a speech impediment?
Why do they look like they're made out of vacuum cleaner parts? Like their arms and legs look like old vacuum cleaner hoses, right? Like they look like they're made out of the old Bissell that your grandma was trying to throw out.
Yeah, well, you see, a young'un like you don't realize there was no such thing as CGI in the 70s. That was still many years away. But consider this, Sheila. Do you think they gave Tweaky a speech impediment because that would make him more human, give him a flaw, in other words?
I think they're trying to avoid the whole uncanny valley. And so they're trying to make it like the least possible human that it could be, so that it was still sort of making machine noises, and it didn't weird the public out. Also on the front of, and I'm not going to show it, you can Google it, viewers at home. You'll find it somewhere. David loves this old science fiction stuff. And so online, and I ran it past my son and everything I know about working in the trades here in Alberta. I sent David Menzies a clip, and it was an altered clip of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it was where if Hal had an Alberta accent, and he's like, "Open the bay doors, Hal." Yeah, no, that's not going to happen, bud.
No, I have no tolerance for parodies of 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's in my top 10 list of all-time best movies, Sheila. So I couldn't bear the vandalism you did to that clip. But I will say this.
And I will tell you, Efron sent it to me to double check the accuracy. And I was like, that is uncanny accurate.
Okay. But I will say this, my favorite. Oh, here we are. Do you want to play a clip of this?
They're swearing though, Efron.
Oh.
But it's very accurate as to like a trades work site in Alberta, for sure.
And if anyone hasn't seen 2001, even though it was released in 1968, I believe, the way you do it, this is a movie you do not watch on your phone. You go to a cinema presentation and you will get the full meal deal. I'll leave it this with Tweaky. My favorite episode is when he goes to see the doctor and the doctor says, "Bad news, Tweaky, you've got diabetes."
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Okay, we got to tell everybody what we're doing here today. We're way sidetracked. I cannot go late because I've got to do a week's worth of work this afternoon. And I have other things that I do at the company, not just writing and doing videos. So we'll tell everybody what we're doing. And then we've got a special guest, Alexa Lavoie, to talk about the madness that happened both in Ottawa and then the very next day in Montreal. The streets are chaos in Mark Carney's Canada, and they don't seem to be doing anything about it, or the cops aren't. But I will tell you, big high fives to the cops in Edmonton and Calgary who put a stop to the Hamas marchers blocking our roads like that. Like it was instant. So the moral of the story is it can be done if there's the will to enforce the law, and it doesn't appear that there is in Ottawa or Montreal. So if you are watching us on Rumble, thank you for sticking it out on that great free speech platform. They supported us and allowed us to be monetized when nobody else did. So if you want to support our work over there, you can give us something called a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're making it mandatory to read it on air. If it's below that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. Likewise on YouTube, the very recently remonetized platform of YouTube, and God knows how long that's going to last. But we know there are 1.7 million sets of your eyeballs over there. So we realize it for ease, for habit. We know some of you prefer to watch us over there. So same rules apply for their super chats over the $5 US cutoff. Reading it on air. If it's under, we'll do our very best. And there's a little additional way that you can support us on YouTube, and it's a paid comment called a super thanks after the fact. So if you're watching the recorded version, you can still support us. If you like what we're saying, if you feel moved by the spirit, you can leave a super thanks. All right, that's it. Efron, Olivia, do we have Alexa on the line?
I believe we do.
Okay, let's go right.
There's the Quebec
lovely,
Khaleesi.
the lovely Alexa Lavoie. She's cute as a button, but boy, tough as nails, as we saw over the course of the weekend. Yeah, exactly. Tell us what you were doing on Parliament Hill, because I'm reliably informed by the very boring people who live in Ottawa that nothing rambunctious can even happen down on Parliament Hill, let alone criminal intimidation, as what we saw over the weekend. Tell us what happened.
So on Parliament Hill, for the people who are not aware, it was the annual anti-Israel march that was happening on Parliament Hill. And so my goal was just to ask a couple of questions. And one of them was which candidate for the upcoming election you think would be more favorable for your cause? And it's not really aggressive as a question.
No, although I will tell you that that's the largest Carney rally I've ever seen.
I would say that some people were favorable for Mark Carney because of his latest comment, and I was just trying to engage. But obviously, there is the Antifa / far left activists from Montreal who recognized me right away, and with their kind of, I don't know how you call it, but it's like a long board with like Islamic writing on
it. Banner. Yeah, that's their banner.
And so they were cattling us, me and Guillaume, trying to stop us to move around. And they were really following us for a long time on Parliament Hill. And they were telling everybody to not engage with us, to not speak with us. They were saying that I was a fascist, that was anyway, all like the bad words that you can actually use for painting someone. And at one point we said, okay, let's get out of Parliament Hill. Anyway, we will not reach any interview. Nobody wants to talk with us. So we went in the street on Wellington and started walking. And we got assaulted. Some people were pushing us around, shoveling us around, and some people were just smashing what we have, like my microphone. And at one point, a man tried to play the victim after like stepping on me and other kind of the other kind of physical assault. And it was saying that I was disrupting, I was assaulting almost, and I was provoking. And at that moment, I just stopped with the police officer. He turned around and I put my microphone on him because I was like, what do you have to say? Like, I did nothing that what you're saying. He actually slapped my microphone and in front of the police. At least the police did something at that point because they saw how much it was aggressive. And so I think they identify him. They identify me also. They took my statement, but they asked me to not go further into the march because what I heard, it's they will feel emboldened to do whatever they want because there is less police present, and it was not safe for us to walk down to the street. But imagine this. This is happening on Parliament Hill. These people are violent. These people can do whatever they want. They can assault you. They can intimidate you, threatening you. And that's okay in Canada. But the Freedom Convoy that was peaceful in Ottawa and never attacked nobody, this is not okay in Canada, and you are facing charges.
Yeah, that's more violence and intimidation than the Freedom Convoy inflicted on anybody. And it happens there week after week after week, as we've seen through the footage provided by Chris Dacey. Every week they intimidate him. The convoy did none of this stuff. And
Mhm.
was anybody arrested for assaulting you, or were they just sort of given a warning and hustled away somewhere else?
I don't know what they did with the man. I saw him entering in the police car. I don't know if it's just for identifying him and putting him like for giving his personal detail, because me they bring me up to the hill for nobody hear my address or my information. I don't know what will happen with this man. That was pretty violent. But something that I need to say, that I need to talk about. Usually at the end of those protests, there always a prayer happening, and this time it happened on Parliament Hill. I was shocked to the point that I saw who was leading the prayer. It was the Imam Adil Shakawi. I don't know if our viewer know who he is. He is the one who did like a hate speech during one of the big protests in Montreal, calling for, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to be the platform or something like that, but to hit all the enemy of Gaza, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
to find one by one and to not let one alive. And he also been investigating in the past for ties with Al Qaeda. And one of his students, because he was a teacher who said that time, and some of his students have alleged to move. I think it was in Syria. I think it was in Syria. I'm not too sure the country where the student went after he was a teacher, but there were report of alleged indoctrination of those students. He's not teaching anymore after the speech he gave. I think his right to teach was removed from him. But the thing is, he's not born here in Canada. He got his citizenship, and a lot of people don't understand how he got his citizenship. But he got his citizenship. I think I don't remember the year, but the fact that he was there doing like the prayer in front of everybody, I find that really, really concerning that he can still go to those protests when last time he actually made death threats.
Well, here's my 2 cents worth, Sheila and Alexa. First of all, it's very odd. I have a lot of people that come up to me when it comes to dealing with the Hamasholes and corrupt police officers, and they ask me, how can you take it? How do you remain cool? I don't want to give them what they're looking for, which is to, lose it, drop F-bombs. Everyone's got a camera. It's not a good look. However, when I see it happen to my colleagues, especially female colleagues, I guess chivalry's not dead, but anyways, my blood is boiling. And I saw it with the fake feminist punching Sheila in the face in Edmonton almost 10 years ago. And I see it with you continually, Alexa. You're a lioness. The idea that you can deal with this also with grace. But at the end of the day, this was a very important video you did on Parliament Hill, because it is more video proof, and we've seen it for the last 18 months, that multiculturalism, official state-sanctioned multiculturalism in Canada, is dead. It's over. Going back to 1971, when Blackface's father brought in official multiculturalism, there was an unspoken, unwritten contract. And it was simply this: you can come from anywhere in the world to Canada. You can pursue the Canadian promise, the Canadian dream. You can take advantage of our welfare programs, ranging from unemployment insurance to free medical care. Here's what we want in return: you obey the law. You do not import age-old hatred to the streets of our great Dominion. And as we've seen since October 7th of 2023, we have people committing vandalism and violence and chanting for genocide and cosplaying as Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th massacre. And look, not just ones and twos, there's a few thousand there. Multiculturalism is dead. It was an experiment. it was something that maybe like the 1971 Ford Pinto looked good on paper, but in practice, it's an unmitigated disaster. And enough is enough. This is happening right in front of police officers who let this happen, who do nothing. Actually, I stand corrected. On cold days, certain police services will bring them Timbits and coffee because, chanting for genocide, that can wear you out a little. And we have the political class the next day saying, Canada has no home for hate. This is unacceptable until next weekend when there will be more home for hate. We can't really do anything in terms of Canadian citizens, well, aside from arresting them, and they're breaking many sections of the criminal code, including Section 319. But Alexa, if you're an international student, if you're here on a work visa, and many of those people they're not Canadian citizens, they have to be deported. And I mean put on a plane and sent back to whatever shithole they came from, because they are breaking this contract. They are not behaving themselves. They are not obeying the law. And they are making a mockery of Western values. What is your response to that, my friend?
I would go even further, me. If you got your citizenship and you are committing those crime and those hate speech, I'm sorry, your Canadian citizenship is being revoked. You don't own it because you don't deserve it. And we need to be proud of you. We are Canadian, and everybody who carry that citizenship should be proud Canadian. And we don't want the criminals of other countries pretending they are Canadian and carrying our status and doing all those things. It's not okay. And quickly, like, I don't know if you want to talk about yesterday, but
yes, I do.
So
yes,
on Saturday, that was happening in Ottawa. And on Sunday, they choose to go to do their protest in front of the Notre Dame Basilica, one of the churches that have the most signification for Christianity in Montreal. I think.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you too. On Palm Sunday, so the beginning of the holiest week for Christians is when they did it. So for those of you who don't know, Palm Sunday is when Jesus came to Jerusalem. And so it's a big deal for us. And so for them to choose the Basilica at the beginning of our holiest week, that sends us a real message. Now, is anybody listening? I am.
Well, and it's the oldest church too. I think it's 1642 or something like that. That this church was built, and I knew at this moment when I saw the flyer that they were going to do a prayer. And so, since Natasha was documenting this, she's an independent journalist. Since she was reporting in Ottawa for Rare, and she say, I missed the prayer in Ottawa. I want to catch this prayer. So we went together, and our goal was like, take our distance, document the speech that was given, and also the chants that they were doing. And I have multiple videos showing that we are just walking on the sidewalk. And I took the time to say, you see, I'm going to film us to see that we are not provoking, that we are walking. And at one point, they recognized us because they were marching towards the basilica, because I knew they were going to do a prayer. And so they started chanting, fascist is here, Zionist is here. So, and some people feel emboldened to come towards us and started to assault, harass, intimidate us with all sort of, I don't know, like they had the signs board and flyers and everything, and they were putting that in our face, and in the same time that pushing us and being physical with us. But we still kept our distance from them. And at one point, I saw Iyad Abu Ahmed. As I explained, Iyad Abu Ahmed, I already reported on him. He is affiliated with one of the mosques in Montreal, MAC. He's also the one who did apply for the tax exemption, who is actually, he got it from the city. He is the one who is mostly there during those protests during the Sunday. And so I remembered him saying that on October 7, 2023, it was a victory. And so I wanted to challenge him on his words. And I approach him. I say, first of all, do you agree with this kind of behavior? Talking about the people who were at the protest, because if it's the leader, you should tell your people to calm down and to stop harassing journalists. And afterward, I was saying, like, why are you chanting anti-Semitic slogan? Why are you doing that? And I said, why did you say that October 7th was a victory? And he was yelling at me. He was yelling so much that I was spitting in my face. And at that moment, the police didn't tell him to stop doing that. They didn't tell the people to stop assaulting us and to touch us and to intimidate us. They actually grabbed my arm and they pushed me on the back. And I keep saying, do not touch me. You don't have the right to touch me. Do not touch me. And he kept putting his hand on my arm to push me back. And that same police who actually say, I know for who you work for Rebel. And they keep like pushing me around. And I say, can you stop touching me? And at one point, me and Natasha, that we actually comply and we went on the sidewalk. We switch police officer. So the police officer that was physical with me and really aggressive with me, who actually mentioned my outlet as seems like really malicious, really targeting my outlet, started to engage with Natasha, starting to walk towards her. And she had like to step down. She had her phone on her hand trying to film like what was happening around. And we can see clearly that more was pushing towards her, more like she had like to step to back up. And at one point, he put his hand on the side of her body, around her hips. And so she grabbed and she said, do not touch me. And at this moment, he grabbed his arm, twisted it, and make her under arrest for assault. This is what happened.
Disgraceful. You know, obviously what the policing mandate is, I have two theories. One is the path of least resistance. If they go into the mob, they'll have to really work to make arrests. And if the police say, well, what do you want us to do? There's so many of them, use tear gas, water cannon. Yes, and yes, whatever it takes. Okay. Yeah. The second thing, Alexa, is that maybe some of the police officers on the Montreal police force, including the police chief, they're down with the Hamas side, much like the brass here in Toronto are also down with Team Hamas. But I want to ask you something. I find that fascinating. The police officer says to you, I know who you are. You work for Rebel. And that would be my question. And what does that mean? You know, genius. You know, it's on my my mic flash, for goodness sakes. Is there some sort of a jihad out against Rebel news reporters because they don't follow the talking points of mainstream media? Did he provide any clarity in terms of what he meant by that, Alexa?
But the thing is, how did he knew that I was with Rebel? Because for not provoking the crowd, I was just there with my camera 360 and my phone, because I didn't want it to agitate nobody, you know. I was just there for filming far away and just to document what was happening. So how did he know that I was working with Rebel? And the fact
Alexa,
that
I am sure, sorry to interrupt you, maybe what we have to do is get our man in Ottawa to file an FOI. Because what we found out last May when we had our Freedom Conference, our anti-censorship conference, the Toronto Police Service and the York Regional Police were going out of their way to torpedo that conference. They were trying to look for anything to shut us down. They had every single name of every rebel attending that conference. And for some reason, every time they mentioned me, my name was in bold. I don't know whether to feel honored or afraid. So I'm sure they have a dossier on you. I'm sure they have photos. I think, what do you think, Sheila? You're the chief reporter. I think we have to file an FOI for this joke of a police service in Montreal to see what the hidden agenda is.
I think they know exactly who you are. They've chosen not to protect you from the violent mob in the past. It's not like you're an unknown figure to them. You've had contact with them wherein they failed to restrain the violent law-breaking mob from attacking you in the past. In fact, they victim blamed you. They said, "Oh, what, your presence here is provoking them. You've got to get out of here." No, maybe you could get them to behave themselves in a public place. I'm reliably informed that is mischief when you get acting up in a public place like that. Tell us, let's focus back on Natasha, though, because she was the one who was arrested. Tell us her condition, and then please tell us how people who are so moved by what they see here can get involved in helping her.
So, by the way, Natasha said to me that they kept repeating that she was working with Rebel when she actually keeps saying that she was not working with us. She never worked with us. She never took a dime from us. And it's just because we met multiple times trying to document those protests is how we actually met to each other, because she got assaulted before and she pressed a charge on other people who assaulted her in the past. She spent all night in the hospital. I think she's still there at the moment. Can you believe it? Almost like 24 hours after. But so they twist her arm and her ribs.
Oh, she looks like she went down on her face.
Yeah. So I don't know if she got a concussion. I don't know yet what is the medical result that she gets, but that's for sure. I will let the people know what she's suffering from, because when the adrenaline went down, she started to be in pain everywhere. And by the way, we got followed. We got followed by
Alexa.
Oh, have we lost Alexa?
Maybe we have.
You know, Sheila, let me pick up this point that Alexa made about her and Natasha. The police saying you are provoking the mob. And all I can think about is going back to maybe half a century ago, where it was commonplace in Canada, in the US, if a woman was raped, for example, she would be crossed on the stand, and it would be, how much cleavage were you showing that day, honey? How much leg were you displaying? The idea that you brought this upon yourself. If these Islamists are being provoked, you know what? That's their problem, not our problem, right?
Right.
And the job of law enforcement, those cowardly pigs that beat up on Natasha, how do they sleep at night, given what they did? Their job is to go after the bullies, not the victims. This is despicable policing.
And sorry, at the moment I was talking about her, she called me, so I would call her back afterwards. So she probably out of the hospital, and she would probably tell me what is happening. Can you believe that now she's out at 1 p.m. the day after? It's crazy. But yes, she was feeling pain everywhere, and we got followed. And someone with a keffieh followed us. And the man parked in the same street than us, so she was worried to take her car. So we had to wait about an hour and a half for that man that was sitting in his car, was just waiting and watching. And I was like, this is really creepy that now we have people following behind us in Montreal. So this is one of the reality. What about me at one of my day off that I'm walking into Montreal, and suddenly I'm arriving face to face with those protesters. So now I can be arrested just because I'm exercising my rights to be in the public space and just to walk. What is going on here? Why those people never been sanctioned? I'm curious. I feel so many access to information to know how many people got charged in those protests, and nobody can tell me how many. I'm pretty sure that there is none, or maybe a few of them, but those people are chanting anti-Semitic slogan. They are calling for the death of Jewish people, clearly, and they are sometimes there is vandalism, there is assault, intimidation. Why those people never got charged with anything? Why Natasha needs now to face criminal charges for just documenting those protests? I'm not surprised. I didn't see mainstream media in Ottawa. I didn't see mainstream media yesterday either. So it's public interest. I don't know if you saw in Quebec, they want to stronger the secular law, just because a lot of people are concerned about those public prayer, and why then nobody is reporting on those stories? People wants to know. There is a huge problem right here that if you're doing those protests and those prayer, you are in the public space, you have no right to intimidate, harass, or assault anybody, because you are sharing a public space with others.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this, Alexa. In Toronto, the police service and the city say that it is a constitutional right to prayer, which is correct. But it is not a constitutional right to occupy a street and forcing ambulances in certain cases to divert. So that is a total red herring. They are so scared to come across as insensitive or bigoted or Islamophobic. This is what they say. And all these prayers, let's as they say down at the Midway, let's not kid the kidders here. This is not about praying. This is about displaying Islamist exceptionalism. This is about giving a middle finger to Canada, Canadian law, Western values, nothing more. And my final point on this, because I'm watching your footage, Alexa, and I can't help but notice how many of these thugs are masked up like, it's Halloween. This has to end. We have to have a law where if you're in public, you do not wear a mask. And I am including those women or those identifying as women who wear the niqab or the burqa. You want to wear that garbage? Do it at the home. Do it at the mosque. But you are at an inherent disadvantage when someone comes up to you and assaults you who's wearing a mask. Because when the police say who did it, you don't have a description of that person.
My point is, if you're praying, it's just like, why are you choosing the cenotaph? Why are you choosing churches? Why are you choosing synagogue? Why are you choosing places that have a signification for other religion who don't really feel comfortable of you doing your religious prayer in front of a monument that have nothing to do with your religion? Why are you not just choosing a plain place where there is no signification and just do it there without obstructing road or anything? But when it comes to places where have a high signification, people will see that as provocation, and I don't think it's really good. Neither for the people like who don't agree with that. There is Muslims that don't agree with that. The thing is, they don't talk. They should talk, and they should say, "We are condemning this." And they don't do it.
Before we wrap up, ladies, I just have this question for you in terms of the two-tier policing and the political double standards. If a group of people, you name it, Jews, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, if they went to a mosque and started doing a public display of prayer, I mean, not even chanting anything offensive, how quickly would the cops come in and revert to whack 'em and stack 'em mode?
Probably fast.
Yeah,
I
real
think so.
fast. Now, to get everything back on track here, and I just want to go back a little bit and point out we're not anti-police. I know I'm definitely not anti-police. I'm
I'm back the blue.
anti-bad. Yeah, back the blue, but I'm bad police. Why? Because I'm pro good police and anti-bad police. I have a special disdain for bad cops because I know great cops, and the bad cops trade on the reputation that the good cops build in our communities. These guys they think they can get away with being bad cops because the good cops are doing all the good policing for them. Now, I want before I let you go, Alexa, two things. We've got a clip from Pierre Poilievre. I want to show it to you. I want to get your reaction because Pierre Poilievre was asked about the chaos in the streets this weekend. And then after that, again, so we can get things back on track, I want to give you the opportunity to tell people how they can support Natasha because we haven't quite done that yet. So let's show that Pierre Poilievre clip.
On the issue of disorder and chaos, there's been plenty of it in Montreal in the past year and a half from anti-Israel protesters, including recently at Cavendish Mall, where the protesters were able to stay for 2 hours. Police claimed that they couldn't eject them because they hadn't committed a crime, even though there are criminal code provisions that enable them to do so. What would a Poilievre government do to encourage the enforcement of the criminal code in such situations?
Thank you very much. Well, after the lost Liberal decade of crime and chaos and breakdown in our society, we can't afford a fourth Liberal term. We need a change to bring law and order and respect. I want to condemn, first of all, the Liberal approach of dividing Canadians. We see Mr. Carney playing Justin Trudeau's trick of saying one thing to one group and exactly the opposite to another, inflaming sides to cause division while refusing to enforce the law. That will end when I'm Prime Minister. I will say the same thing to everyone, everywhere. And I will stand up for the right of Jewish Canadians to proudly live their lives, practice their faith, and enjoy their freedom. That includes wearing a Star of David, a kippah, or having a mezuzah on the door, and doing all of those things in total security. How? Well, we'll be bringing in tougher laws that crack down on hate-based vandalism, on violence and targeted at places of worship. We will bring in more security for places of worship. And we will deport from Canada anyone here on a visitor visa who carries out any crime. And we will prioritize the deportation of those who carry out hate crimes and violence on our streets. Those who are permanent or citizens who do those things, they will go to jail. And they will also, on top of that, there will be massive, crippling financial penalties for hate-based vandalism. And I can assure you they will be penalties that are so massive that there will never be, again, some punk thinking even once about throwing a Molotov cocktail into a Jewish business or firing at a Jewish school. They will pay a severe price for that. My message to the Jewish community, change is coming, and that change will mean you feel safe, you feel respected, you feel at home again in Canada.
I would say I think it was a really great answer, but also I'm waiting the time where we will have someone who decide to challenge in court the rights to wear a mask when you know that those protests are highly subjective to hate speech or any kind of crime, that we know that this is going to happen in those kind of protests. And police, when they decide that a protest is turned into an illegal protest, that people need to unmask right away or to be arrested for identification. I think now is the time that we need to think about what is going on. People who don't live in Quebec or Montreal, they don't know what is going on here. But the people who are masking up, they are committing really often vandalism and big damages. They are smashing window. They are doing all kind of crime, and most of them, they don't get apprehended. Why? Because they are fully masked, and the police have received the order to not really arrest the people on the fact, and to wait to identify them afterwards. But those people are fully masked. You can't really identify them. So most of them, they will not have any charge. So I think it would be important also to talk about the fact that people are masking up, and for avoiding any sanction, any laws, and just get away with it and continue to do it repeatedly, and just like, by example, the Last Generation Canada, they climb the bridge here, and they blocked traffic for hours. They also is the same group that painted Tesla building. They are still there in the street. They don't face anything for, like, they are probably facing I don't know, charge in court. Do they will be found guilty or anything? But they are crowdfunding for their crime. So there is multiple stuff that is happening in Canada. As Sheila, you reported on it about the $244,000 sent to summer camp for one of the mosques in Quebec that have alleged ties to
Yes.
terrorism. So we need really to have a strong leader who say, yes, we will start investigating those places of worship that are probably doing indoctrination and maybe extremism. I think it's the time that we look into it and we do investigation, because now it's going too far for everything that we are saying right now. And the campuses is a hotbed of rising anti-Semitism and extremism, and we need to crack down on that, because look at what is going on, and especially here in Montreal. I think Montreal is one of the examples, and people should look at Montreal, because soon enough, your city will probably turn into what Montreal is right now.
And Alexa, I'll say this, that the left drones on and on about threats to democracy. You know what the real threat to democracy is? You know what the real threat to law and order is? It's this unholy alliance of the Marxists and the Islamists. They're in bed together. They're all about tearing down society, and they're getting away with it. As for Pierre Poilievre, what he said, that's a principled stance. Pierre Poilievre is on the right side of history. So why are the Liberals and the NDP not saying what Mr. Poilievre is saying? It's just business, baby, electoral math business. They've crunched the numbers. They know there are 5 times as many Muslims as Jews in Canada. And by the way, I'm not saying all Muslims subscribe to this garbage. I know many who are appalled by it, but they are placing their bets that there's more of them on the side of disorder and violence and vandalism than there are who support the state of Israel, the Jewish people, and that is despicable. And I think that is the unspoken reason why we are here right now.
And people want to support the defense of Natasha. We are standing by her. So we are crowdfunding money for her defense. She's facing really terrible charges, criminal charges. She's a mother. She, as I say, she never did anything wrong in her life. So you can chip in what you can at savenatasha.com. So it's savenatasha.com. And I appreciate everybody. And please feel free to send her a message to encourage her. I think she's really shocked, and she's kind of panicking, because criminal charge is not something that you want on record, especially when you're a mother with a children. What are you going to say to your daughter? I tried to do my job, and I got assaulted by police and charged with criminal charge, but I didn't do nothing like that.
Alexa, what are the criminal charges? Because, I mean, I can tell you, if that episode happened in the United States under the First Amendment, Natasha would have a lawyer lining up to file a multi-million-dollar civil suit regarding freedom of speech, freedom of the press. But what exactly are the charges? Do we know?
So I saw the paper, and on the paper, it was written obstruction of a police officer and assaulting a police officer.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, there was assault and obstruction, all right, but they got the offender and the offendee wrong.
It's really sad to see what's going on, and I'm kind of lucky because the same police was searching a big reaction from me. I think he wanted me to react so he can actually jail me and press charge on me, because he was really physical with me, and because I have the training, I know how to react, and I know how to behave with the police, and I know my rights. But it's not everybody who are the same, and I think it's like, if someone is touching you somewhere that you don't want, and especially a man, and you just remove the end of the person and saying, do not touch me, this should not result on criminal charges.
Of course not.
Alexa, thanks so much for staying on this. Thanks so much for being there after you had just come home from Ottawa, where you were jostled around, and you headed there. And if you had not been there, I think there would be really no help for Natasha at all, because you captured the footage that showed what really happened to her and what had been happening to her before that. So without you, there would be no way for us to rally the troops to save Natasha. So thank you for that. Everybody should have a friend like you.
Thank you, Alexa. And by the way, Alexa, what is the French word for lioness?
Lion.
Lion. Okay, you and Natasha, you're a couple of lions. Thank you, my friend. Just stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Alexa. Okay, so we've got a quick, it's too bad Alexa ran off. We have a chat directed at her. It's from Alex Greer, 279, says, Très bon, Alexa.
Ah,
yes.
Indeed.
We've got a quick little ad read. Allow us to pay the bills, if you don't mind. And then do we need to do a Rebel ad break? And then we'll come back on some other stuff that I wanted to talk about. I think we've hit most of the headline items. I want to talk about the shift in the polling and this other thing that should make all the journalists in this country feel like absolute monsters for being outraged that they were not allowed on the Poilievre tour bus, the campaign tour bus. I want to point out that he probably should not have even had to talk about this. And it is his right to protect his child. But now he did, because they wouldn't shut up and quit their harping. So anyways, this message is from 1775 Coffee. Wheat coffees for the week, and at Rumble, weak has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 Coffee. It is single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale mass-produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness, and Vitality Mushroom Blend, a real energy and lasting focus, no synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole bean, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. Use code STUDIO for 15% off and start your morning with a coffee that stands for something. Oh, yes. And every dollar spent enters you to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 cash. All right.
You know, Sheila, I've never been an EV guy, but seeing what these thugs on the left are doing to Elon Musk and Tesla dealerships, if ever I came into a little bit of money, and who knows, maybe I'll win that contest. I so want a Cybertruck. The left has influenced public opinion, meaning people like me now want to show solidarity to Elon Musk by buying a Tesla. Way to go, you leftist losers.
I believe they're still hideous. As a boxy truck aficionado, I think they're hideous to look at, but I would own one just for spite, like you. Do we have a Rebel News ad break, or we just want to keep going? Sure. We'll hit an ad break. We'll be right back because I want to talk about the polls. It seems as though people who, the longer they know Mark Carney, the least they like him. So that's good. And then I want to talk about the ghouls in the media.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Oh, and Sheila,
right.
if I may, I just want to issue a clarification because I was a little emotional. I said the P word describing those trio of cops. I want to make it specific. I was not talking about police en masse like you, like Alexa. I back the blue. I have to talk Lady Menzoid off the ledge to keep her backing the blue. I have police coming up to me off the record saying they support us. I even had an RCMP officer on the weekend tell me what Dumichel did to me last January was disgraceful. So I was speaking about those particular police officers manhandling and putting, a 120-pound woman in hospital. Yeah, that's the benchmark for piggery, if that's a word. But I did not mean it as a descriptor for those in law enforcement who, for the most part, I greatly respect.
Yep. Same. Okay, I want to just quickly touch on the polls here. Polls are shifting. Now, I just saw on X, I just checked in to see how Liberal X is doing, and they're not doing well. Now they're saying because the polls are shifting, it still means a Mark Carney majority. Now, that could be the case depending on where they're polling. But the Conservatives, thankfully, have pulled ahead of the Liberals. Now, it depends on, as they say, vote efficiency, where those Conservative votes are, where those Liberal votes are, because as you know, my vote actually doesn't matter. Nobody in the West here, our votes don't matter, it doesn't matter. So I guess it is interesting to see the drastic shift, though, that the more people are getting to know Mark Carney, the less they like him. I think the Liberals' problem was that by and large, everybody hated Justin Trudeau for a bunch of different reasons. But if you were looking for a change away from the corruption of Justin Trudeau's Liberals, you're getting it on steroids from Mark Carney. And instead of all their Liberal crony friends benefiting, it seems to be just Mark Carney that's benefiting from the corruption here.
Sheila, I, for one, I'm taking these polls with a shovelful of salt. I'm having a profound sense of deja vu going back to last November because, Sheila, you find me one polling firm in the US that said the triple play Trump pulled off was going to happen, namely winning the Electoral College, winning the popular vote, and sweeping all 7 swing states. I know of no pollster that came out with that. In fact, I remember on the eve of the election, I believe it was Kamala Harris, 53%, Donald Trump, 47%. I just don't trust the polls. And when I'm at Poilievre rallies, I've yet to see one person, because that's one of the questions. What do you make of polls that just a few months ago were showing a conservative landslide, now showing a photo finish horse race? No one trusts the polls. So I think either the art of polling is in decline or, like the mainstream media, the pollsters are compromised.
Well, there's that too. And I think the polling aggregators too. They take in the bad polls, like the crazy bad polls that are literally polling people at the doors. Like their Liberal staffers are knocking doors and saying, like, who are you going to vote for? And so you tell the Liberal staffer you're going to vote for them just so they can get off your doorstep. They're taking that into account. There's like one polling firm that did that, and that's being stuffed into the aggregator, and it's skewing the numbers. But I guess, as they say, the only poll that matters is on election day. Quickly.
Or, as John Diefenbaker said, his profound love of dogs is because they know the proper reason for polls.
Nice. I just want to touch on this, although I did a video, it'll be out later on today, on the dirty tricks of the Liberal Party.
Oh, man.
the most shocking part of this story is that CBC reported it accurately. You know, the liberal dirty tricksters actually thought they could get away with telling CBC this, and CBC wouldn't go public with it. So here's what happened. I'm calling it Button Gate. At the Canada Strong and Free Conference in Ottawa, it's a conservative gathering of like your official conservative types and your fancy conservatives. So you won't have like a rebel speaking on a panel about independent journalism. They'll get, I don't know, somebody who works for National Post who gets $115,000 a week from the government, whatever. So it's very like, not highfalutin, but it's very like establishment-y. But liberal dirty tricksters from the campaign, and I know they were from the campaign, and these are campaign operatives because Mark Carney told us they were from the campaign. Yep. They went to Canada Strong and Free, put these buttons out because people are starting to notice that perhaps Pierre Poilievre is not as Trumpy as the media and the liberals are saying he is, right? They're like, wait, he's not Trumpy. So they put these buttons with Trump slogans on them all around the Canada Strong and Free conference as to like stop the steal, make Canada great again, as if that's like a controversial statement. But whatever, they were all sort of kind of loosely, tangentially related to things that Trump had said once. So these were caught around the thing. Now, after one drink or so, the Liberal staffers spilled the beans. They were bragging about it after a couple of drinks. CBC overheard them. Here's the thing that really bothers me. CBC knows who these Liberal staffers are. They're not saying who they are. I want to know who they are. You know how CBC knew who they were? Because CBC recognized them as Liberal Party staffers. Now we're sitting on the names? Okay, sure. So it's bad when even the CBC has called this like a disinformation operation. I never want to hear a Liberal use the word disinformation ever again. You are the biggest arbiters of that. Right? They planted it at the Conservative conference. The Liberal Party says campaigners regrettably got carried. Regrettably. I just regrettably went on a disinformation psyop with buttons pre-printed. Sure. Now, Mark Carney was asked about it today. And this is how I know these. I'll let you listen to his response. And then I'll tell you how I know these are not interns that did this. Let's listen to Mark Carney on it.
Good morning. Kate McKenna from the CBC.
Hi.
Members of the Liberal War Room, so the Central Campaign, distributed Stop the Steal buttons at a Conservative event. Given the anti-democratic implications of this phrase, how much does this event undermine the trust in the way that the Liberals operate? And what have you done in response to these revelations?
Thanks for the question. Look, this is totally unacceptable, to be absolutely clear. And I... on behalf of my campaign, I was unaware of this behavior, but on behalf of my campaign, I apologize for it unreservedly. Okay. I've made it absolutely clear to my campaign that this behavior or anything approximating it or in that spirit is unacceptable, cannot happen again.
You know,
Okay.
Sheila, in the department of us being umpires, calling him as we see him, I want to actually applaud Mr. Carney for apologizing and saying it's unacceptable. I think he might have learned something from the Paul Chang scandal, where he was vociferously defending a candidate, Markham Unionville, who was advocating for the Conservative candidate to be kidnapped. However, on the bad side, here's where actions speak louder than words. I understand, unless this has changed in the last several minutes, that these campaign staffers are not being fired. They're being reassigned, whatever that means. I think that's a fumble. What say you, my friend?
Well, and that's the clip that I was looking for. I think I just plugged it into the Slack channel. Yeah. So CBC knows exactly who these people are because they said CBC, without a doubt, said these are part of the Central Campaign War Room. These are like the Gerald Butts types, okay? But they're not naming them for some reason. Yeah. And here's how I know they were super important, and it is that exact fact. They have been reassigned, not fired. If you were an intern, you'd be out on your ass. even if you were like a middle person, you would be just, regardless of whether or not Carney knew about it, and definitely he knew about it, you would be just the sacrificial lamb to stop this. But these are high level operatives doing this because they were reassigned.
You know, Sheila, because I am often a bear of
We
very
have the
little
clip,
brain,
by the way.
the one button I'm scratching my head about is the one that has Jenny Burns' name scratched out and under it, Corey Tanak. What are they actually trying to say there?
Oh, okay. So we have the clip, and we'll show that in a second. But I just want to that is the liberal narrative that has been fomented by the likes of Doug Ford, that there is chaos and ineffectiveness in the Poilievre campaign. There's discord and conservatives are dissatisfied. I don't know anyone who's dissatisfied with the campaign, like quite frankly speaking. They're touching on all the issues that Canadians care about. But Corey Tanak is Doug Ford's man, and we know Doug Ford is doing his best to scuttle the Poilievre campaign to make sure that he loses a completely winnable campaign, because he sees himself as the successor to Poilievre and thus the next conservative prime minister of this country. Doug, we see you. We know exactly what you're doing. We don't want any of it.
Well, I'll get nervous, Sheila, if I see Doug Ford taking French lessons, because he's totally unilingual. So I don't know. I think that's a non-starter.
Well, explain to me what's going on there. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. And who knows, he might be taking French. His French could not be worse than Carney's, by the way. But let's show this clip where he says the staffers were reassigned. This is how I know they're important people.
I just want to come back to the buttons we were talking about. You said this was unacceptable and you have apologized to the Conservative Party. Will you fire the members of your team that distributed those buttons?
The responsible people for this issue have been reassigned within the campaign.
Kate McKenna from the CBC.
Hi.
Members of the Liberal War Room, so the Central Campaign, distributed Stop the Steal buttons at a Conservative event. Given the anti-democratic implications of this phrase, how much does this event undermine the trust?
So he's confirmed. They're not fired. They were attempting to spread disinformation and undermine the Conservative Party. They were doing it in and around the media, hoping the media would pick it up. The media did, but the media also overheard them plotting and actually told the whole truth, or as much of they haven't told the whole truth because we don't know who these people are, but we know they're high level.
By the way, Sheila, not to go off on a tangerine here, and I know this is no laughing matter, Buttongate. It's amazing, eh? Half a century later, everything that's a scandal is named after the Watergate Hotel in Washington. But have you ever seen Carney laugh in any clips during this campaign, even smile? He exudes a miserable attitude.
It's like a sinister chuckle sometimes. Bordering on cackle, but it's not, it's like there's always a scheme there. You want to see, and just, it doesn't matter how good your French is. There are some clips floating around. Maybe we'll have the people who are hosting the show tomorrow show them. But there's clips floating around of Carney on Tout le monde en parle. That's a French language sort of like talk show. And Poilievre on Tout le monde en parle. And you don't even need to speak French to know that it went bad for Carney. And just, even though the hosts were especially aggressive with Poilievre, he remained calm, gregarious, and engaging. Just even watch them walk out. Here is the sinister robot. He's a mean android. And here is Poilievre. Shaking hands. Carney just sits right down, takes a spot, has a drink of water. Everybody sits down. Nobody cares. Poilievre comes out. People are standing, clapping. He's shaking hands. He's waving at people. He's doing his thing, smiling. And that the android is just sitting there like, how do you do, fellow humans? It's completely different. You don't need to speak French to know that went two very different ways.
And Sheila, I can tell you, I experienced that on steroids in Windsor on Friday evening. when what a boisterous mood. Two things. The crowd turnout, and this is a city whose MPs are either orange or red. I wonder if the Conservatives can make a breakthrough in Windsor. That's the city of Windsor, of course, not the outside rural areas. But what was fascinating was the media coverage. AM 800 said over 1,000. How about over 6,000? That would be more accurate. And the Windsor Star, the lead on their story was a Liberal candidate calling out Poilievre to apologize for offensive signage. Now, what he's talking about is those F. Carney flags. They weren't in the venue. This was a guy or a
Those
few
are
guys.
on Amazon. What does Poilievre have to do with somebody's side hustle on Amazon?
Yeah. But that candidate, Pollock, was calling it garbage. His words. Hey, what about this, Mr. Pollock? What about the garbage of independent media going to Carney rallies and being frog marched out by armed police officers? How about that for garbage? So, I mean, the slant on the media, that was a bases loaded home run for Poilievre again. The day before, Lincoln Jay and I were in Waterloo region. He filled an entire aircraft hangar. The rally was more than an hour delayed, not because they're not punctual, but because they had to accommodate people that were walking kilometers away. That was the closest parking space situation in a snowstorm. And but I mean, this is part of the problem I have, whether it's the pollsters or the media party. It's not Poilievre going up just against the Liberals. It's multiple vested interests.
Okay, that's great, because that leads me into our last topic. And you have heard from the beginning of this campaign that the media whining, the wailing and the gnashing of the teeth, it's absolutely biblical, they're complaining. Because they are not allowed on the Poilievre campaign bus. Now, you have seen pictures all along that the Poilievres have brought their small children with them. And Anna has said that, like, her parents on the bus with them to help care with the kids, and the kids really haven't been with babysitters they're not related to. I can understand that, neither have mine. So, but there's a very specific reason that the Poilievre family wants to keep those jackals off the bus, and it is their daughter. So it's 2 minutes. You're here, Poilievre being absolute boss dad here. And I hope those media jackals find it within themselves to tone it down and perhaps even apologize, because it wasn't about you. Although even if it were about you, you media jackals, you had it coming. But it was never even about you. This is about the Poilievre. So let's watch this clip.
We have two great kids. We've got little Cruz. He's 3 years old. He's very ambitious, curious, inquisitive, and I know that he's going to do great, whatever he does. I think he'll be a merchant or something. He likes to trade. He wants something from you. He'll pick something else up and bring it over and offer it as a trade. So maybe he'll be a commodities trader or something. And then little Valentina, she has some special needs. She's 6 years old and she's nonverbal right now. And so she has a hard time communicating with us. But we've learned to take her cues and really celebrate the raw authenticity that she has. She's totally real. Like what you see is what you get. And that's what I love about her. She has none of the games that people play to put on an air of this or that feeling. She's just like, you get exactly what's inside her is what comes out of her. And what's special about that is when she gives you that burst of love, it's like really powerful. But I also think about like what's her life going to be like? How is she going to pay her bills when she's older? What will her life look like when she's 60? And I probably won't be around by then. I was a late bloomer. I think I was 39 when we had her. So when she's up in her years, I won't be there. So I think how do we build up a nest egg for her so that she can have a good life? And then I think about a lot of other families that are perhaps not as fortunate as us who have a child with a disability. How do they pay their bills? So I think it's given me a lot more empathy to the different challenges and hardships that families have to fight through.
There's a lot going on in everybody's world, and we only see what goes on in our world.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. So I think having kids and experiencing some of those challenges, it helps you to empathize with other people who are out there and fighting their own battles.
I know.
So maybe the media should have parked their outrage and quit crying censorship. He's trying to keep a bit of normalcy around his 6-year-old daughter who has developmental challenges. He wants to keep the stress away from her. It's already stressful enough being on the campaign when you're little. And imagine having a bunch of strangers harping at your dad on a campaign bus when you just want to have time with the two people in the world outside. Well, two people, but I should say, it sounds like Valentina's got a pretty strong mom, dad, little brother, and grandparents all around her to help her along. But and I saw online people saying, well, why didn't he just leave her at home? So you're just going to leave your little special needs 6-year-old at home with who? With strangers? The grandparents are there to help with everybody. So they're on the campaigns. You just leave her behind because she's too much trouble? Atrocious. But the media, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves right now.
But Sheila, let's be real about this. The media knows that the gravy train with, what do you call it, biscuit wheels is coming off the tracks.
The gravy train with biscuit wheels. Yeah. It's rolling out of town. And
That's
they're standing on the platform with their suitcase in their hand.
Yeah. So they have a vested interest to go after Poilievre just for their own self-preservation. They are in a sunset industry. They can't figure out how to make to pay the bills anymore. They need welfare, taxpayer-funded welfare. Poilievre is a threat to that. There you go. Media party, anti-conservative.
Completely. They need a liberal win. Do we have any chats, Olivia Efron?
Olivia's looking.
Okay, not today. David, I'll let you wrap the show.
All right, then. Well, I guess we have to wrap it up because, as Sheila said at the beginning of the show, folks, she has to do 1 week's worth of work in one afternoon. That's just the kind of Khaleesi she is. Now, Sheila, you being a good Catholic gal, I understand that this Friday is Good Friday. Is that correct?
This Friday is Good Friday.
So there's no live stream, I take it.
I'm not sure how we do that here. I keep forgetting because it's a holy day of obligation on the Friday and the Monday. But I'm not obligating everybody to do what I do. So I think normally we take the Friday off and we work on the Monday is how it works.
And by the way, way back in 1962, when yours truly was born, that day, that April 20th was Good Friday. What's your interpretation of that, Sheila Gunn-Reid?
I still don't understand why we call it Good Friday because it is a bad day, generally speaking. Crucified Jesus.
Are you talking about my birth or the original?
Again, the rule holds.
Well, there you go. So, folks, I don't think we're on, but I stand to be corrected. If not, therefore, Sheila and I, we will be reunited a week today on Monday. That'll be 1 week in counting till Election Day. Things are just really heating up. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And thank you for the person who did make that super chat. Tomorrow, I believe Lise is hosting the live stream. And until next Monday or potentially Good Friday, as I always say, stay safe and stay sane.
As for Corey, I've said right from day one, he's tough as nails, but he's the best campaign manager in the country. And to be very frank, if Corey was running that campaign, I don't think Mr. Poilievre would be in the position he's in right now. But it's still a lot of time left. We still have debates. At the end of the day, the people will decide which way they want this country to move forward. But sometimes the truth hurts.